Jeff, I know it's the unofficial first depth chart, and with Greedy being number one on that unofficial depth chart over Greg Newsome, what has to happen for that to change in Newsome's favor? Are the games the most important thing now or not?
Tony, that's a good question, and I think it's something that, what I'm excited about this year is having a competitive room with those corners. And like you were talking about, is it games, is it practice? I think it's all of the above. It's every day we want to come in and we want to put our best foot forward. We're going to compete in these preseason games, in these preseason, these training camp practices, and we're going to sort it out at the end of it. And we're going to see who ends up coming out the best. And that's really, talking about the room in general. Competition is a big part of what we talk about every day. We want to be fierce competitors, and every opportunity that we have to compete, we want to do that. And so those guys buy into that. It's something that we're going to do together. So we're not pitting guys against one another, but we're going to compete at the highest level because ultimately we want to have one of the best secondaries in the NFL.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. We'll go to Nate Ulrich.
Hey, Coach, to follow up on that, what are you seeing out of Greg Newsome and Greedy, and what are kind of the individual challenges that you are presenting to both of them to kind of take the next step in this camp?
Right. So, they're both playing outside for us, and then Greg's also, taking some reps in the slot. I think they're both they're long. They both have good speed. They're able to press. I think they both have some good zone reactions. They're comfortable when the ball's in the air. There's some similarities, but there are also some differences. Greedy has a little bit more experience, but what I would say about Greg is I've been extremely impressed just day to day on how he takes coaching, his ability to take information in from the meeting room and really be able to take it out to the field. He's a very consistent learner. And he's really, I think he's wise beyond his years, just ask great questions, really thoughtful on his craft, on what he should be looking at, his alignments and all that stuff. That really stands out with Greg. But, same thing with Greedy. He's fully involved with the process and getting better every day.
Thanks, Nate. Jeff Shadell, you're up. Jeff, if you could unmute your line, please. All right, Jeff, we're going to move on to Dan Wabi.
Hey, Coach. We've talked so much about the safeties, and unfortunately, you guys haven't really been able to get a couple of those guys on the field, with Ronnie being out and Grant as well. Has it been sort of difficult to envision what that group will look like on the field without seeing them? Are they getting the work done behind the scenes that kind of makes you feel good about that group?
Yeah, so with that group, ultimately we want to have guys out on the field and we want to practice. I think Coach Stefanski has set a clear message to our team that if we're able to practice, we value practice here because it makes us who we are. Now, ultimately, if you are unable to practice, we're not going to ask you to be out on the field if you can't be there. But we want those guys to be there. And since they're not, we're trying to make the most of those situations. So what that looks like is, in meetings, they're involved with every meeting. And then during walkthroughs, we're trying to get them as many reps as possible so that they can see as much as we can close to those game-like situations. So walkthroughs, meetings, quizzes afterwards, spending extra time on that information so that really when their bodies are able, that they could be, come out and just come out and play. But we also realize that there's a process to that, right? Those practice reps are important, and it's just going through the process with them, trying to make the most of it for what it is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Mary Kay Cabot, go to you.
Yeah, Coach, just specifically wondering, how was Grant Delpit coming along before this this little hamstring setback. How did he look? I mean, obviously that's such a difficult injury to come back from. So what was the outlook for him, and what is the outlook now with what he's going through?
Right. So he hasn't really had a whole lot of snaps for us. But he was around in minicamp, and he's been around. But unfortunately, I think he's had like 19 team reps up to this point. So it's been very, very few and far between for Grant.
And do you feel like if he can kind of get back from the hamstring, does he still have a chance to contribute early on in the season, or are you guys kind of projecting a little further out now, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep projections. We're not really focused on that, kind of focused on the day-to-day. We'll see what he is when he comes back. But ultimately, we talk about in our room that who we are as football players is what we put on tape. And so we're going to make assessments off of that, not any sort of projections.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Scott Petrick is next.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to follow up on what Mary Kay asked you. How important how more important are the team reps for Grant, given that he didn't play at all last year? And for a guy that battled to come back from the Achilles, how's he doing from a spirit standpoint, given that he hasn't been able to be out there for the last week?
Yeah, so that's somewhat of a challenge, because it's frustrating. Competitors want to compete. That's what they do. But I think he's done a good job of, staying in the present, staying with what he can control and trying to make the most of it. And that's something that's been my message to him to be able to do. But yes, team reps, preseason games, those reps are important for him. And we're hoping to get him back as soon as possible.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Scott. Jake Trotter, you're up.
Yeah, hey Jeff. What is John Johnson's presence, alone out there do for your younger guys? And then, the overall depth that you now have, even though you got a couple guys banged up, what impact is that going to have on the level of defense you're going to be able to play this season?
Yeah, I've been really enjoyed working with John. Even back at mini camp in the off season, he's a pleasure to work with. I think he sees the game really well. As somebody that's played in the league and done it at a high level, I think there's some things that come along with that as far as football IQ, understanding what offenses are trying to do, situational intelligence, and he has all that. But the other thing that I think he relates well with others, I think he's, with his teammates, I think he's a guy that shares information, is very team focused. Something that he's shared with me is he wants to make other people's jobs easier. I mean, I think that's something that Coach Stefanski talks about as far as being team focused, and that's who he is. As a player, I've been impressed with what he has put on tape. I think he sees the game really well, especially from the deep part of the field. And then just being able to stay ahead of the quarterbacks, and he makes clean breaks and gets into positions to make plays on balls. And I think you guys have probably seen the same thing.
Thanks, Jake. Let's try to go back to Jeff Shadell. Hopefully those technical issues are resolved. Jeff, you unmute your line.
So I was going to ask you now about Troy Hill. He's the one guy we haven't talked a lot about. What does he add to your secondary?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Jeff. Troy has had a good start to camp, playing multiple position, playing insides and out. I think what stands out to me with Troy is that he has a tenacious attitude on the field. I think he's one of those guys that just from his background, things that have happened to him, I think he plays with a real chip on his shoulder. And you can see that. And I think it's going to be great for our room. I know it is. He asks great questions in the meeting room. He's very detail oriented, and I think it helps those guys. It helps younger guys to hear the type of questions that he has and kind of how thoughtful he is. But I think, as a player, he's tenacious, he's physical. I think he's able to get involved in the run game, but he's also, as a coverage player, he's has good football IQ, and he's very sticky. He's very quick and able to match routes really well in man type situations.
Thanks, Jeff. We're going to take three more. Mary Kay Cabot, Nate Ulrich, Scott Petrick. Mary Kay.
Yeah, Coach, just wondering, obviously the takeaway game is vitally important. Wondering what you think of the guys that you have in the back end in terms of their ability to get their hands on some footballs, whether it be interceptions, forcing fumbles, recovering fumbles. How important is it to you? And what are you guys doing to really enhance your game in that regard?
Yeah, great question, Mary. I love talking about that, but creating takeaways is an absolute skill. All right. It's something that you can develop. There's skills to it, just as something as simple as catching the ball, how to catch the ball, and then, or attacking the ball in terms of if a ball carrier has it, how are we going to try to get it away from them? And that's something that we stress here, and something that we coach. As far as getting those opportunities to do that, especially in coverage, I think there's understanding when those opportunities are going to come, being ahead of it, trying to stay ahead of the quarterback, knowing when I can be visual off the quarterback and when I can't, and then being able to look for those opportunities. But another part of that is understanding our scheme. The more that you understand our scheme, the more that you can put yourself in those situations to make those plays. And as a coach, I try to teach them that type of stuff so that they, can get put in those situations to make those plays. But it's something that we really stress. We try to teach. There's a real, focus on the process of doing that. And it's something our guys have bought into. So hopefully, this coming year, we can get it done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Nate Ork, you're up.
Hey, Coach, wanted to ask you with Denzel Ward, is that something you think will linger, or do you think you'll get him back soon? And then secondly, I've noticed that, he has been working out a lot to the side, with one of your assistants. And I'm just wondering, have you noticed an extra level of attention to detail in this training camp from Denzel? And what does that do, like, in terms of an example for other guys in the room?
Right. So Denzel, this team is extremely important to him. The guys in our room are extremely important to him. I think he's going to come out and practice when he's able to do that. And we talked through the expectation of when you come out to the field, like we're going at it, we're going full speed. And if you can't do that, you can't do that. As far as, I think what you're talking about going to the side, I think Coach Lynch does a great job with Denzel. We try to spend basically with all of our guys, any opportunity that we can to work with them, we're going to try to do that. Whether it's just walking through things slowly, talking through thought processes with it. And that's something that Denzel has been doing really for the last year, and really all the guys have. And just kind of the way that things worked out with, last year, people who didn't really see that, but that's something that's been, we've had in practice for the last year, and something that really all the guys have bought into is, Coach Stefanski talks about being about the work, and we're trying to make our actions kind of fall in line with what he's talking about.
Thank you, Nate. And the final question for Coach Howard goes to Scott Petrik.
Hey, Coach, you were obviously, the staff wasn't here when Greedy was drafted and played as a rookie, but he said last week that you guys watch his rookie film and you're 100% believers in him. So what did you see in that rookie film that you liked? And do you feel like he's still kind of knocking off that rust from not having played a year ago?
Yeah. So with all of our guys, when we came in, we try to develop a plan for their development with all of them. So we watched I charted all Greedy's plays, charted all Denzel's plays, and kind of had an idea of what they were good at and what we needed to improve on. And that's something that, Coach Stefanski has had us do for the last couple of years. And it's something that I think has helped us and helped our guys. But as far as going back to that tape, something that I've seen from Greedy is, you love his length, you love his speed. He's able to match outside. I think, when we're playing press coverage, we're trying to disrupt timing and space, and having a long body that can run can really do that. And I thought that something, controlling the deep passing game, doing it from that press alignment is not something that a lot of people can do. And I think that's why it makes those corners special. And you can kind of see that with Greedy. And that was something that I was excited when I came here to be able to work with him. So getting him back from that injury and getting him out on the field has been great for us.
Thanks.